For more than a year, the Fox 8 defenders have investigated dangerous blighted pools across New Orleans that have posed health and safety concerns for neighbors.
And since our reports began, 4 problem pools have been drained, filled, or covered. Tonight, we take a look back over the last 12 months to show you the progress.
For more than a year, the Fox 8 defenders have investigated dangerous blighted pools across New Orleans. Since then, one pool's been drained and covered in Lakeview. A second pool drained and cleaned in Gentilly. A third pool in New Orleans East drained and filled with sand, along with a fourth pool in Venetian Isles drained and filled with sand. And the city council passed a new law that narrowly targets the most dangerous pools in New Orleans.
And let me tell you what, it's so filthy and disgusting, you'd never see a child in there.
Our coverage started in Lakeview with this pool. The water black and stagnant, and the lock on the fence around it not secure.
It was very windy. The gate was pushed almost all the way open. Anybody could walk right in.
For years, neighbors with young kids complained about the health and safety hazards it posed, violating the city's code of ordinances. While the owner of the longtime vacant property received more than $148,000 in federal road home grant money after Katrina to make repairs, Frances Musacha told us it wasn't enough. And when she failed to pay thousands of dollars in code enforcement liens for violations, the city seized the property for a sheriff's sale. But neighbors say on the day of the sale, the owner paid up.
She paid $17,000 in fines. You can walk up, hand over your $17,000 in fines the morning of your sheriff's sale and walk away, and everything is stopped. And people like us who live next door have to start back over again.
When you have a repeat offender, well, you've been told once nicely, so now we're going to tell you a little more forcefully, and we will continue to do it, and these fines can get up pretty high.
And in 2017, Musacha owed more than $14,000 in code enforcement liens. The city attempted to seize the property again in early 2018. But before a sheriff's sale could happen, a civil district court judge granted an injunction stopping the sale, saying the owner wasn't notified properly.
It was like the blood drained from my body when he said you have to start all over again. So this is coming from the head of code enforcement.
Neighbors started the code enforcement process all over again for a third time.
So if you're not taking care of that pool, you're leaving it abandoned, then we're going to make the process a lot harder and much stricter for you to make sure that you don't have to have this process repeated over and over again.
Over the summer, Councilmember Joe Giarrusso vowed to work with city council attorneys to tighten code enforcement rules. In August, Giarrusso brought the issue before the council's Governmental Affairs Committee.
13 years. Everything is wrong with that particular pool. And look, it's not the only one in the city that's like that. There is a gaping hole where a child could go in and, God forbid, drown. How is that not an imminent danger?
Council members questioned code enforcement leaders.
Unfortunately, the law does not allow us to go and handcuff her to an agent and force her to fix the fence.
But Giarrusso pointed out, if the homeowner won't do it, the city has the ability to.
It seems to me that the law is clear that you can go fill the pool when you have a judgment in hand and then lien the property.
The pool is not just a nuisance, it's an imminent health hazard.
In September, neighbors filled a code enforcement hearing on the property, expressing concern about West Nile virus and what had become a gaping hole in the crumbling brick wall.
The city pulled the energy permit, and that's what happened. That's why there's no electricity there. Why the city pulled it in safety and permits, you would need to ask them.
We try, the Department of Safety and Permits, the Office of Code Enforcement, the City of New Orleans tries to help you, and you refuse to help yourself.
The hearing officer ruled if the homeowner didn't fix it in 30 days, the city could fill the pool. Councilman Giarrusso wanted the city to declare the pool an emergency and fill it immediately. But city code enforcement officials told council members they were following the city attorney's opinion that the conditions around that pool didn't constitute an emergency.
The party that would be injured by this particular hazard would have to go onto the person's private property to even interact with the hazard. Therefore, it's a bit different than what we use as an imminent danger of collapse, where you as a pedestrian can be on a public right-of-way and a building falls upon you.
If a child does walk through and dies, is that then an emergency situation after after the child is dead? Then do we have the ability to go in and fill up the pool?
By mid-October, the council passed a new law narrowly targeting unfiltered, unfenced pools, allowing the city to fill them in immediately, and the mayor approved it. By that point, workers had just drained the Vicksburg pool and built a wooden deck on top of it. The Fox 8 defenders learned there are dozens of properties reported, investigated, or observed as having swimming pool violations across New Orleans. And in digging through each address, we exposed what may have been the most dangerous unmaintained pool in the city along Charlene Drive in New Orleans East.
This vacant lot, so overgrown, the weeds in many cases over my head, you can't really tell. There's a dangerous pool here.
It's been wide open and exposed for nearly 10 years since the house burned in a fire in 2009.
This is horrible, Shelley. This is absolutely unacceptable. And I'm glad that you guys have brought this to our attention.
I literally watched my child take his legs break.
In 2008, Devonna Waker's 7-year-old son Christopher had been playing ball and chased after it, not realizing where it had landed in the backyard of a vacant home was actually a swimming pool.
It looked like a patch of grass on the pool. It looked like a putting green, kind of like.
A firefighter dove right into the layer of algae to help.
And he went back again. When he came up with Christopher's body.
Hours after her son drowned, Waker says city workers showed up to drain and fill in the pool. For her little boy, it was too late. 10 years later, she pleaded for the city to take action on other dangerous pools. 10 days after that report in November, we found workers draining the longtime dangerous pool we exposed in New Orleans East and filling it with several loads of sand.
I'm proud that, the city is coming together and making a change.
In an email, the mayor's press secretary said in part, "We thank Fox 8 for bringing this issue to our attention and the city council for their partnership in providing code enforcement new tools to address unmaintained pools." In Venetian Isles, a stagnant, unfiltered pool right in the middle of a vacant lot on Fort Macomb Road was visible from the street. Once again, there was no fence or barrier. Recently, it was drained and filled with sand. Meantime, there are dozens of other blighted pools that may or may not be considered an emergency under the new law. Yet some have been in code enforcement for years.
We've had 5 hearings at the code enforcement and nothing has been done to take care of the pool.
This vacant home near Bayou St. John went to code enforcement hearings in 2012. 2013, 2014, 2017, and just recently in September. The hearing officer gave the owner 30 days to fill the pool.
That means that if you do not fill it within 30 days, the city will do so.
I call it neighborhood terrace. Just that he's not using bombs or chemicals or anything like that. He's using his pool.
In Gentilly, this yard's secure and fenced. But beyond its tall walls, the pool appeared dark, nasty, and stagnant.
The mosquitoes is unbearable.
Pictures from a city inspector also showed the pool was not maintained. But at a code enforcement hearing in November,
this is the water from the pool that I have here.
Ultimately, the city rep found Columbus Price guilty of the pool violation.
And if the violation is not abated within 30 days, Your Honor, the city would like to also recommend that a $500 daily fine be rendered.
Less than 2 weeks after that hearing, the Gentilly pool was drained and appeared to be clean.
This has been a problem that existed in history, and when Mayor Cantrell came in, I think that we weren't addressing pools as well as we could have, and we're proactively going after these blighted pools.
If you've got a consumer complaint, call the Fox 8 Defenders, staffed with volunteers from the National Council of Jewish Women, the NCJW, or you can fill out our online complaint form at fox8live.com.